Every day I wake up, I think, how am I going to make the world better? Maybe 1 to 2 people a day. How am I going to be able to impact someone's day?
My DNA comes directly from these mountains and the people who helped raise me, so there's a little bit of responsibility that I feel with that. My purpose is making sure that I give back to my state, my university, my department, and the students that occupy West Virginia University.
So we're good to go.
If you ask anyone with kids about their purpose, they would tell you that guiding their children, seeing to it that their children have a better life, and that they find their purpose is paramount. I have been blessed to be able to have that same kind of purpose in my educational experience with the students, helping them find their purpose.
My purpose here at WVU is to perform research in brain disorders that will help our state, our nation, and the world around us. And secondly, to train students in order to be wonderful researchers and then to pass this knowledge on to them so that they train others.
The main purpose for me, I think, is just making the students feel comfortable, feel safe, and make WVU feel like their home, especially our military veteran students. They've signed up to serve the country. And that comes with a big price tag sometimes.
I've just seen so many entrepreneurs and inventors that really have the state's best interest at heart. And I think that's really being able to collaborate with them has really become one of my passions.
I want to be able to show, for instance, the student from small town West Virginia or small town anywhere, to bring these students to a different country. There are just so many different cultures and walks of life and different types of families and how they've been raised and their experiences. And every experience is different. If everybody can kind of see that and realize that, I think there's going to be a lot more unity.
And I think it's all a collaborative effort where no one's an island. We're none going to solve anything by ourselves. And but together, I think we can make a big difference. We have to pay attention to how we feel about the work we're doing. We have to ask ourselves what gets us up every day. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, what do you want to leave behind?
Well, good afternoon. Whoa. I'm Clay Marsh, and thank you for being here in the Evansdale Crossing facility. And also thanks for those of you who are joining us online on Zoom. So what I'd like to do in the next 30 minutes or so is to touch on some of the critical features of the role of purpose in our lives, talk about how experts have helped us understand how we get closer to defining our purpose, but then to talk a little bit about my own story and then about how we might be able to merge our purpose, which I hope we will agree is at least partially a shared purpose, and try to help ourselves grow and be happier and healthier, and also to create a community that serves that for all of the people here. So that's quite a bit to tackle in 30 minutes, but I'm going for it. And what I'd love to do in the online audience, and Tara, are you monitoring the online audience or people here? I may throw out some questions, and please interact if you feel comfortable, or if you have questions or something I said is not very clear, then stop me. I'm happy to answer it, and I want this to be meaningful for you. So let me just give you a snapshot of what I see as my story. So I was born in Charleston, West Virginia, and my dad was the editor of the Charleston Gazette eventually. He had a motto at his paper, which was sustained outrage for social injustice. And that was really created because of his childhood. He lived in a coal mining town in Mud Fork, West Virginia, where also Gary White, who was the interim president of Marshall University's family, lived, as it turned out. And my dad's dad, my grandfather, was a coal miner, was uneducated, was a janitor after he got too sick to work in the mines. My dad's hero in the world, his uncle, died in a coal mining accident when he came in after hours as the foreman of the mine, and a large boulder fell on him and killed him. And that was the first time I'd seen my dad cry as I had been a child, and it really impacted me. And my grandmother was not educated. She was a cook who said, if it can be fried, I can make it. Surprisingly, she died of heart disease, but she loved to read. And she gave that gift of loving to read to my dad. And my dad, because he was in the Navy, was able to go to college because of the GI Bill. And he then graduated and worked and got a job at the Charleston Gazette and worked on the police beat, which was the worst time to work overnight. But he ended up getting assigned to write a story of newspaper articles on a disaster that happened in a small area, a small town in West Virginia, in Buffalo Creek. So he went to Buffalo Creek and wrote about the the flood disaster where a number of people died. And unbeknownst to him, the editorial board of his paper sent those stories in with an application for a contest. And my dad, not knowing that anybody had applied to this contest, got a letter in the mail and said, congratulations, you are chosen as one of 5 Nieman Fellows in the country, and you'll spend a year at Harvard, which freaked my dad out. I mean, he's from Mud Fork, Logan County. He's going to Harvard for a year. And so my mom and him were not married yet, but there was a series of letters that he had written to her. And, the first ones were, wow, I'm really out of place. I don't really belong here. These people are so smart, and so on and so forth. And about midway through the year, he wrote a letter that probably indelibly changed my life and my brother's life, because he sent a letter home that was something like, there's good news and bad news. The good news is either I'm much smarter than I thought I was, or the bad news is everybody else is much less smart than I thought they were. So he changed and saw that he was able to work in an environment where people were really skilled and talented. And my dad was an avid reader. He read the Bible, he read the Quran, he read Will and Ariel Durant's History of the World. So he was really, really bright. And he I ended up going to med school here. Gordon Gee was the president when I went to med school, and he and my mom ended up in the 2 years following my training in critical care medicine, getting really, really sick. My dad had sudden death on a treadmill and had an hour-and-a-half CPR and got put on a bypass pump getting CPR, and survived that and lived 7 more years and was normal neurologically. Although in my dad's usual fashion, when he came home from the hospital, we always played war games because he really loved that. And we played Scrabble. And I'd never beat my dad in Scrabble, and I beat him when we came home. And he looks at me and he says, I can't believe you're taking advantage of a poor, old, sick man. And then about 3 months later, we played again. He killed me. He goes, we're back to normal now. It's all good. Anyway, but then my mom got Rocky Mountain spotted fever the year after and almost died of that. So it was the circle coming full around the fact that they supported me to go to college and to go to medical school. And that training enabled me to at least contribute to their care. And so I graduated from medical school and then went to Ohio State University. And the truth is, Ohio State was my second choice of places to go. But the person that interviewed me at Ohio State was dating this attractive woman who I've now been married to for 33 years. So it all works out. Needless to say, I'm not close to the gentleman who is my host, but I am happily married with 3 kids. But it's just interesting how things work out. And then when Gordon Gee came back from Ohio State to be the president of West Virginia, he offered me an opportunity to come back. And I've been back for about 7.5 years. And these have been 7.5 years of the most amazing growth personally and professionally that I've ever experienced. And so I want to use that story to really make 2 points. One point is that your life always unfolds for you in ways that don't seem to make sense when you're looking at it going forward. When you look at it going backwards, it always makes sense. Steve Jobs said something very similar to the Stanford graduating class in 2005. The second thing is that I was never completely driven by a purpose that I recognized. I think my purpose found me, and it found me when I came back here. And to me, purpose is what is in your heart. And Renee Nicholson and I were just talking before, and I think that one of the keys for us, for young people that might be watching this or anybody who's watching it, that sometimes we feel like we have to define our life, that we have to have a plan, that we are setting our goals, we're setting our future, we want to be this, we want to be that. But everything that the plan does makes the world more and more outside of you. When we were children, we believed first, and then we could see things that we could only see because we believed in certain things. As we become adults, we have to see things in order to believe them. And I think that part of the message that I'd like to leave is that one of the opportunities we have here is to get back to the joy and the innocence and the creativity and the open-mindedness that we all had before we learned our story. And before we learned the story of I'm Clay with the story I just shared with you. Let me just do a quick exercise for you guys. So this doesn't work for everybody the first time. Take your index finger, and I said index, and hold it up in front of your face and look at your finger. How many fingers do you see? One, right? Now keep your finger in front of your face and look at the screen here, but focus on the screen, not your finger. How many fingers do you see? I see 2. 7. Do you guys see the second finger? It's a shadow, but if you look in the distance, you can see more than one finger appear. So depending on our perspective, we can either see the outside world as made up of many things, 2 or more, or we can see our own being one. And I think that as we go forward, many of the sages that we listen to, I love the Sufi poet Rumi, and Rumi would argue that we are all part of the same thing, even though we look different. And his way of saying that is that we are different lamps that shine the same light. He also said, yesterday I was clever and wanted to change the world. Today I am wise and decided to change myself. So one of the important considerations that Simon Sinek tells us about purpose is really our why. It is the sort of the life reason that we are here, what we want to do, but not in a goal-setting way, but in a more unachievable way. Like for me, what I've found since I've been back here, that my purpose is to learn and to grow and to try to reach my potential and to try to help other people reach their potential. I love doing that. That gives me incredible joy, but I'm never going to get finished reaching my potential. And I don't think I'll ever be able to help somebody reach theirs, because as you continue to evolve, you continue to have a greater ceiling, a greater potential. My goals while I'm here is to try to help the state be healthier, try to help this university be a place of kindness, a place of safety, a place where we care about each other, and importantly, a place of community. And I want to talk about that as a frame for our health and our happiness, and talk about that also in the frame of the problems we have today with mental illness and other problems. So I want to go over quickly 4 studies that are in the medical scientific literature that makes this point. But the goal here is not to make you science experts. The goal here is to say that there's a lot of information that supports some of the conclusions that I at least give to you guys, and you can decide whether or not these are reasonable or not, or you agree or disagree, which is fine. Does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Anybody online? Okay. So I'm going to argue that the way that we see ourselves, the way that we're tethered to our story, defines our health, our happiness, and our well-being. And I'm going to argue that before we learned our story of separation, before I learned I was Clay, and there's Renee, and there's the rest of the folks in the audience, I didn't differentiate myself from that. And that's what Rumi said. We are different lamps that shine the same light. We're all part of the same thing, like mushrooms under the ground, where we share the root system, but it looks different above the ground. And I think that that is going to make an incredible difference as we go forward. Okay, first study. Nobel Prize winner, Elizabeth Blackburn. Anybody know what Elizabeth Blackburn, who is from the University of California, San Francisco, won the Nobel Prize for? I know some people know. Laura. She won the Nobel Prize for telomeres. And telomeres are the cap, yay, Laura. So the cap of on the ends of our DNA, like the ends of our shoestrings. And every time our cells divide, then those telomeres get shorter and shorter. So we can measure how old your body is by measuring the telomeres. And let me just say, I missed one point I should have made. So how do you define health and well-being? So what are we searching? If we're trying to be healthier and higher degrees of well-being and happiness, what are we trying to get to? How do we measure that? Yep, please. The length of your life, that's great. So people that live a long time are presumably healthier than people that don't because they've lived a long time. I think that's right. But how about in people that are younger? Absence of disease, feeling, fulfilled at all levels, but that's harder to measure because some people might not know they have disease, but have heart disease or cancer. So my own definition, which will be important for everything I say in the next 20 minutes, which I'm hoping you'll agree with this, because if not, then I'm finished. So, but my own definition is it's where your body's real age, your biological age, is as low as possible in comparison to your birthday age or your chronological age. So being younger as you get older is healthy, and being older while you're younger is less healthy. So that's my definition. And the telomeres allow us to measure how old our body is. And that's a way we can compare it then to what our chronological age is. And so Elizabeth Blackburn and her colleague, Alyssa Appel, behavioral psychologist, did this study in San Francisco using 39 women, 38 years old, average age. And what they looked at is they had the two groups of women that were all very highly educated, high standards of living, doing very well. But the difference is one group of moms had really ill, chronically ill children, and one group of moms had normal, healthy children. And the hypothesis behind the work was what? That the moms that had the sick kids would be what? Very stressed, and they would age biologically faster than the moms with the normal kids. And so they did this study and they drew blood and they measured the telomeres of some of the white blood cells. And just like they predicted, the moms with the sick kids chronically were older biologically than the moms that had the well kids, but not tremendously so, but some. What was really interesting is they then compared the results of the stress questionnaire that they used, and they used a 10-question validated survey instrument called the Perceived Stress Score. And they looked at the moms with the lowest stress scores, saw the world less scary, and the moms with the highest stress scores. And they found that there was a significant difference in their body's age, their biological age, even though their chronological age, their birthday age was about the same. Anybody want to guess what the spread from the lowest biologically aged woman to the highest biologically aged woman in that survey, in that study? How many years difference? 17. 17 years, just how you see the world. And the other thing is the women that saw the world as the most stressful weighed a significantly higher amount than the women that didn't. And so as we go forward, we can see that whether we see one finger or two fingers, whether we see the world as unified or we see ourselves as a separate, independent biological machine struggling to make our way, may make a big difference. How we see the world, our perspective is different. Our story grounds us to our perspective. And the ability to feel like that we can accomplish or not accomplish is critical too. Like Henry Ford said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. And psychology research also says, interestingly, so if you look at our worry about loss and happiness about gain, how are we oriented? Which one's more powerful? Are we more afraid of loss or are we more seeking gain? Afraid of loss. 2 to 1, we hate loss more than we like gain. So we're geared toward the negative. And when we get the negative, it makes us fearful, and fear does what to us? Separates, gives us stress, ages our body and separates, because for me to feel separate than you, I have to see myself as different. I have to see myself in competition in some ways. But we know that the root word of health comes from the same root word of heal, holy, holistic, which means whole, W-H-O-L-E, together again. So the first study by the Nobel Prize winner said, if we see the world as stressful, we age and presumably, and we die younger because our bodies have aged quickly. So let's look at longevity studies. 2 longevity studies, one called the Harvard Grant Study, one called the longevity study. There's 3 things that were found in people that survive into their 90s and 100s. Now, this is a little bit different way to look at it because a lot of the people that have died younger, they're already out of the mix by the time you get this group. But what were the 3 findings in those 2 60, 70, 80-year research studies that were found in people that successfully lived the longest? What were the things that were different about them versus others? So it wasn't smoking, wasn't even exercise, wasn't eating better food. That was one. So one was that they continued to challenge themselves. They were very much in that sort of growth mindset. They wanted to be challenged, they wanted to learn. The second thing is they all subscribe to a higher purpose. And in one of the other research studies called the Blue Zones, which are 5 areas of the world where people live long and well, there's even a name that people in Okinawa, Japan gave to higher purpose, and it's called Ikigai. Now that's not I-C-K-Y-G-U-Y, it's I-K-I-G-A-I, the reason for being. And in another one of the Blue Zones in Costa Rica, they called it the Plan Vita, the life plan. So purpose, really important. But the most important one you haven't got yet, community, connections, people. Robin Dunbar is an anthropologist. Does anybody know why he's well known? So he understood this number 150 and he called it, come on, he called it Dunbar's number, Robin Dunbar number, Dunbar's number. And 150 turned out when he studied our evolution, that was about the biggest group that we could have survived with in the evolutionary times, small enough to feed each person, big enough to protect the group. And that also turns out to be about the most people that you can know today. So the sort of the evolutionary drives of being together, which was for safety and helping feed each other, has maintained to this day. So community is critically important. And one of the things that we are proud of here is we believe that one of our really defining strengths is great community. Let's talk about community. So another Nobel laureate, Sir Angus Deaton, and his professor and wife, Ann Case, did a study at Princeton University. And they are, Angus Deaton won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for economics, and Ann Case had chronic back problems, and she was having a lot of pain. And that was the time that the opioid epidemic was really front and center. And so they wondered, was there a relationship between pain and opioids and the economy in areas that were the heaviest hit? And they uncovered this data that turns out to be game changing, and they didn't have any plan to do it. Again, the serendipity of things coming to you when you're ready for them. But they found that there was a group of 45 to 55-year-old non-Hispanic whites, high school education or less, that were dying at a rate that had not been seen since the peak of the AIDS epidemic. This was before COVID. And it had been so profound, it was reducing the life expectancy of people in this country for the first time since really the world wars. And we've seen that progress over COVID. And now we've lost more life expectancy in a child born today than we have since the turn of the century. And what they found is the people that were dying of suicide, overdose, and liver disease. And the liver disease was from alcoholism. And they dug deeper and they found that really the reason why these people were dying, they were dying of hopelessness and despair. They were dying of shame, and they were dying of the loss of worth, social capital. And Ann Case and Angus Deaton identified the really critical factor that was going on. And it turned out that West Virginia was ground zero for this. Appalachia that went into Ohio River Valley. What was the one thing that drove all of this? The loss of what? Jobs, loss of jobs. Because for many of us, part of our purpose is what we do. And our community is who we do it with. And so as we start to think about the impact of being separated, then we can see that even the loss of work can cause a dramatic decline in people's health and in people's lifespan. It's also really interesting that the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, says that we have another pandemic on our hands other than COVID. Do you know what pandemic he believes we have on our hands? Pandemic of loneliness, of separation. So because we are fearful and we feel individualized, many people can feel isolated. And people who feel isolated can be isolated in a university of 25,000. And some people that are deeply connected, you know, monks in monasteries can feel deeply connected when by themselves for weeks on end. And so the perception of our position in our life, whether we feel connected and we feel part of a bigger whole, part of a community or not, can really define our health and our happiness. And so I think that as we go forward, whatever our individual purpose is, one of our shared purpose should be to make everyone feel part of a larger community, part of a larger family. And you may see yourself as separate, but in that way, we need to be part of something that is unified. And I love it that inside of community is the word unity. And so I think that we should all seek to be a community of unity for all people, not just people here, but people everywhere, because we all need to be seen and be validated. Brene Brown, who's a researcher who has done a lot of work in shame and vulnerability, talks about how damaging it is to feel alone and to feel shame. And that's really what Case and Deaton found. Let me talk about the last research study that I think is important, and then I'll close up and be happy to take questions. So maybe the most powerful research study that we have related to longevity and to health and to happiness is a study called the Adverse Childhood Experience Study. And this is a study from Kaiser Foundation. And they basically reached out to 17,000 people who were insured by Kaiser, and they asked them 10 questions. And they asked them, no matter what age they were, to answer the 10 questions, remembering what their life was like when they were 18 or younger. So you could be 50 when you got the questionnaire, but they didn't really want to know how you felt now. How'd you feel when you're younger? How'd you feel when you were a kid? And the questions were neglect, trauma, and family dysfunction. So questions like, were you loved? Were you safe? Did you live with both parents? Did a parent get put in jail? Did you ever get threatened by inappropriate behavior, sexually or with violence? The average score in America is 1. And at a score of 1, every chronic disease and suicide and overdose and mental health and isolation all go up. At a score of 4, and we did a harm reduction clinic in Charleston, which had a score of 4. At a score of 4, your risk of suicide is 1,200% higher if your score is 0. Your risk of chronic lung disease from smoking, 600% higher versus if your score is 0. And your lifespan, 4.7 years less than if your score was 0. At a score of 6, and just to put it in frame, J.D. Vance, who's now running for some office in Ohio, but wrote Hillbilly Elegy. In Hillbilly Elegy, his ACE score was 7. We did a study in a small school where they did a study in Welch, and one of the classes had an average score of 8. The average lifespan of somebody who has a score of 6 or higher is reduced by 20 years. 20 years. So our state has the second lowest life expectancy in the country at 72.8 years. Number 1, the worst state in the country is Mississippi. We trade back and forth, but it turns out that if you look at our lowest life expectancy county, which is McDowell County, and compare it to the country's highest life expectancy county, which is Summit County, Colorado, that has what city in it? Breckenridge, where Oliver Luck informed me at some meeting that he lives. The life expectancy difference on average is 17 years between McDowell County, West Virginia, and Summit County, Colorado. We can do a lot better than that. And I think that the reason why, as we look and find the places where we see the lowest life expectancy, the highest use of opioids, the most deaths from opioids, it turns out in some of these more distressed parts of our state. And not to say that every part of our state's not part of that. Just like every person is part of this same frame, because if we see ourselves as alone and competing in a finite way where we have to gain more, constantly having to struggle and to have our to-do lists and feel like nobody really appreciates us and we're not really very happy in our jobs. 70% of US workers have said in their jobs they're not happy. 75% of healthcare workers have said at one point they feel burned out. A third of the nurses are thought and reportedly going to leave the profession by 2023. We have a pandemic of unhappiness, and the way back again is not to wait to see, to believe. It's to believe that we can do much better and then see the new world that we can create together by our ability to share a purpose of inclusion and unity and community where everybody's welcome and everybody has intrinsic value, not because they can do something for us, because we're all part of the same ocean. And we may be a bunch of little wavelets that are up going, look at me, I'm so great, I'm bigger than you, I'm prettier than you, look at the sun coming off of me, I'm much better than you. But the truth is that we're just part of the same ocean. And if we see ourselves that way, nobody better, nobody worse, then we can help each other, but we don't need to rescue each other at all, because the only real rescue is seeing a different frame, is not being so connected to our story that it limits us. There's a famous story by Plato. Plato was a philosopher, was Socrates' pupil, and it's called the Plato's Cave. And the story is about a number of prisoners that are shackled facing the wall of a cave, and there's a fire behind them, and people are moving back and forth, but their whole world is just the shadows that move back and forth on the cave. And finally, one person gets freed and turns to leave the cave, not knowing that there's any world outside of there, and faces this intense light. And the light is so bright because they've stared at a dark cave for so long. And many other people before them were scared so much by the light, they went back to the cave. But this person ventured past the light and got outside the cave and discovered a whole world out there, and went back to tell all the other people to rescue them, to take them out of the cave. And they said, oh, no way. We're not going out of here, man. This is safe. This is what we know. This is our home. This is the world. Look at all the moving things, et cetera. So we can either continue to look at the wall of the cave and believe that's all there is, or we can go out and discover a world that is not only a beautiful world that we live in, but also that we're part of. And in that way, we can see ourselves not only as the actor or actress in the story, like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, we're all actors and actresses, each with our entrances and exits, and in a lifetime we play many roles, but we also can see ourselves as the author of our story, and the combined community as the author of the story of our state, of our country, of our planet. And I think that the key for us as we go forward is there's a huge conflict, I think, now between people that are stuck in the limited, finite narrative that we've identified ourselves with, and maybe the real us that is starting to come out more and more, because ultimately, in my opinion, we're not just the body and the worker, you know, we're the workplace, and we're the external environment and everything else. And so being part of the whole, again, wholeness being the root, the meaning of the root word of health and heal and holy and holistic, and changing our beliefs will allow us to create the story that we dream about, which is the story of us not having to struggle, but to be loved for who we are and to be part of something that is eternal. Indeed, the community of unity. Thank you so much.
So does anyone have questions for Clay? I have a couple from our virtual session. Questions? You kind of talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to get a little more in depth in terms of how privilege and barriers can sometimes play a role in people's ability to keep striving under a lot of different forces that may keep them down.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'll answer that two ways. So the first way I'll answer it, so certainly as we start to look at our gains, like I said, we are twice as fearful to lose something as we are to get something. So the more we get, the more we start to worry about losing whatever that is. And so people create more and more resistance and more concern about losing things. And that's one reason why having material wealth, I think, can be a burden. You know, if you look at the average person who wins the lottery, long-term, they are less happy than the average person that survives a life-threatening illness, because stuff can never satisfy us. And you can try to get more and more and more, whether it's power, position, money, to try to make yourself feel safe. But we know that safety really only comes from the inside. So as we look outside of ourselves for our happiness and fulfillment, we can't find it. It's only in the inside. And that's really what Joseph Campbell has written about, which is really what the hero's journey is. I think from another level, the more successful we see ourselves in the stories that we've created for ourselves, the more resistance we make to keeping it. And so if you think about that, we're all on a river with a good current going downstream. Most of us are paddling like crazy to stay where we are, so not to move, because we're safe there, the wall of the cave. But the truth is that current is taking us to a much greater place that we're all going to go eventually, either because we wear out or we drop, or we decide to let go. And it's interesting that flow, which is the highest condition that humans can experience, is one of release. It's not one of action, it's one of release. It's one of allowance. It's one of trust. And so I think that the success in this life oftentimes makes us resist stronger to move from that because we like where we are and we want to keep it, we don't want to lose it. But by resisting more and more, we exhaust ourselves. And eventually that's a reason why many people say suffering is part of our life, because the more we resist, eventually the more we suffer. And the more we can accept and trust, the more we will be able to, I think, gain energy and see our lives as it really is, which is, I think, a great adventure. So instead of us being here to do something, I think we're here to be something.
So we can come back to questions in the audience, but I do have one from our virtual session. Beyond our personal example, how do we connect with others in such a way that they may see that there is life beyond Plato's cave, loved ones, people we want to reach with health and other information, etc.?
Well, that's a really powerful question. So my own 2 cents is that we are all part of the same thing. So we each have the rights to experience whatever we're choosing to experience. And I don't mean that to say, oh, if you're in a terrible situation, that's deserved. But I think that we should be willing and present to help anyone, but not to rescue anyone. Because I think that at the end, we all come to our learnings in different ways. And part of what we do to help others is we become that ourselves. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And I think that the best thing we can do is we can help move ourselves to our greatest potential. And that example, there's a poem, beautiful poem by Marianne Williamson that talks about that too. But it really is about that maybe it's not our weakness and our capability to be hurt that is our biggest concern. Maybe it's our power and our light, and that we say to ourselves, well, that can't be me. That would be a fantasy, just be made up. And I think that if you can get past the seeing to believe and getting to the believe to see, and you can start to change that, you do, and this is what her poem says too, you give other people permission to do the same. And I think that loving the people you're with, loving the place you're at, loving the roles that you do is the key to not only being very happy and satisfied in your role, but also to doing your role very well. Last thing I'll say is the Dalai Lama said the only 2 ways to joy, he believes, is service to others and the recognition of the deep interconnection between all things, including you being interconnected to all things.
Are there other questions in the audience here? I have a couple more from the virtual. Yep.
Oh, by the way, how you find your purpose? No, I'm kidding.
Right. So you've worn a lot of hats, sometimes many at once. Have you ever questioned if your purpose is on track? And if so, how did you overcome it or lean into that?
Well, all the hats have cost me my hair, so that's a problem. I've been very privileged. You know, as I said, being back here has been such a incredible growth promoting opportunity set. And I'm very grateful for Gordon and the board and everybody that we work with. The ability to serve other people and to help is such a privilege. And to be able to do that in a few ways has been more than I imagined. And the truth is that the only way that you ever really receive is by giving from your heart. And I think that the paradigm that most people think is, oh, I want to get stuff. I want to be more. I want to be paid more. I want to be higher position. I want more responsibility, more power, whatever it is. And that is, to me, the empty path to suffering, because you constantly have to be more and more resisting to play your role. And I think that, as we start to look at finding yourself in the service to others, what you realize is we're really just part of a bigger single whole. And to be able to help anybody feel more loved or feel more connected or feel more part of the community, that is the part of us that is connected with what God, the source, whatever you say. And you find that it comes to you by doing that, but you have to do it purely. You can't do it because you're like buying your way in, you know, it's more that you find, it finds you when you're working on behalf of others. But again, I think it's important that we not try to force ourselves on others. And let me tell one other real quick story that I think is interesting. So there's a guy who is fishing in a river and he's catching a ton of fish. And a venture capitalist is walking by and goes like, oh, that guy's really good at catching fish. I'm going to back him. And we're going to have a whole fleet of boats and we're going to have big fishing and we're going to dominate. We're going to make tons of money. And he tells the guy that. And he says to the guy, if you just, go with me, you're going to have such an amazing career and you'll be able to retire and have all this money and you'll be able to do anything you want to do. What would you do with all that money? And the guy said, fish.
I have one more question, and I think this is from a student.
Okay.
As students, we might find ourselves questioning our resolve as we pursue our plans to be healthcare providers or in other careers. When you were a student, how did you stay on track with your goals in mind? Did you feel like you knew your purpose as a young person?
I would say, as I said earlier, I think my purpose has continued to evolve over my life. So the purpose I had when I was a student and the purpose I have now is much different. Now, the fact that I had no real plan as a student and have no real plan now, that's probably more the same. But I've always believed that working with the best people who are the brightest with the best ideas and doing something that can help people generally, and something I always find it fun to do work that people don't think possible, because everything's possible. You just have to get your belief wrapped around it before you can see it. I really enjoy that. So my life has been so blessed to do so many things, but I've been drawn to those by people and ideas and opportunity to try to leave the world a little better than we found it. And I would point people, as we've finished this talk, there's a number of videos. Simon Sinek has a great video called, I think, The Golden Circle, and a book called Start With Why, which is around purpose. But there's a book that David Brooks wrote called The Second Mountain that I've just read for the second time that I think is really powerful. And he uses the metaphor of two mountains. The first mountain is the mountain where you're earning your keep and your reputation and your CV and your position, your place. And that's really the work of your growth. And then the second mountain is where you're starting to do your legacy work, your eulogy work, where you're really serving other people and you're starting to see the world as much bigger than just you and try to contribute to the betterment of whatever you're leaving behind. And so I think that for me, my purpose was more first mountain when I was a student and is definitely second mountain now. But I just understand how privileged we all are just to be able to wake up in the morning, to see what we think is beautiful or people that we love, or to do the work that we want to do. Because as Steve Jobs said, if you look in the mirror every day and you'd say, if this was my last day, would I still be doing this? If you ask that question enough days in a row, someday you'll be right. And so I think that making sure that our eyes are not only open, but we see the incredible beauty in front of us and we enjoy the adventure and the journey and the people that we're on the adventure and the journey with, that is really the stories of our real lives. And those we construct in some ways, but the best parts of our life always come to us if we're open for them.
Anyone else in the audience have questions or comments?
I don't have a comment or a question, but I have a comment. I just wanted to share a sense of purpose from somebody I know we both knew, and that's Jamie Shumway. Jamie Shumway was I believe the Associate Dean for Medical Education at the WVU School of Medicine, and was diagnosed with ALS. And I got to know him the last year of his life when his palliative care physician called me on a cold January night. I had to look up what palliative care was and said, I need a creative writer. This never happens. People don't call creative writers in the middle of January nights. Right. So he said, he's dying and he's afraid. And I said, I could imagine that. He's afraid he's not going to finish his book. Can you help him? And when I met Jamie, I asked him because he had 500 pages of transcripts of his stories. And I said, you have all these stories. You have 500 pages. He said, nobody wants to read a transcript. I want to tell my stories in first person. And he asked me if I could help him. And I said, I don't know if I can help you, but I'd like to try. And then here's the heck of it. Every writer I knew told me I was crazy, that I was giving up my gift and I wasn't focusing on my own work. And it was only after I started working with Jamie that my own work flourished. And his sense of purpose was so clear. So even when he was sick, he had that sense of well-being. So I just wanted to give it, when you were talking about purpose, I was put in mind of Jamie.
Well, that was an amazing way to end this talk. So no, thank you, Renee. That's really powerful. And it reminds me of the book When Breath Becomes Air, which is a book about a physician trainee who was a neurosurgery trainee who was very interested in understanding death and dying. And he ended up with a terminal illness during that time. And he died before his book was finished, and his wife finished his book for him. But it is one of the most amazing books. I'm getting chills just talking about it. Super good. As is Being Mortal. If you ever want to read a book about palliative care, Being Mortal is a Tolkien incredible book. So I think that's it. So thank you guys so much. And thank you online for being here. And thank you guys for being here in person. Keep the purpose, build a great community, include everybody. Remember, we're just separate wavelets still in the great ocean.